Is that a Def Leppard song? Guys, NFL 3 days away. Let that sink in. And while you do, let us talk some playoff picks. Tom Brady crashing the NFC party last season, led the Bucs to their first Super Bowl since 2003. Tampa returning all 22 starters to try to run it back. All right, Chris Broussard, take us through your NFC playoff picks for this season.
All right, here we go, Jenna. In the NFC East, you got Dallas. I think a much improved defense, best quarterback in the division. That's an easy one. Green Bay, no explanation needed while they'll win the North. In the South, Tampa Bay, Nick, bad news for you. They are going to be better than last year, all right? In the West, that's the toughest pick because it's the best division in the NFC, obviously, if not in the entire league. I'm going with the Rams. Matthew Stafford's a big upgrade over Jared Goff. Obviously, the defense, they lost a few guys, but I think they'll still be very tough on that side of football. Wild card, 2 teams from the West. That's how good I think it is.
Yep. Jimmy
G in San Francisco, he's embattled, but all he does is win. 24-8 as a starter in his career. Seattle, Russell Wilson only missed the playoffs once in his 9 years as a starter, so he's getting in. And the shocker, New Orleans. Look, they are 8-1 over the last 2 years without Drew Brees. Sean Payton is a great coach. The defense still has some of their great players. And I think, here it is, most improved player candidate, Jameis Winston. I am looking for a big season from Jameis Winston. Watch out for it.
Wow, or comeback player of the year, Jameis Winston, maybe. All right, well, this is a little awkward. It's like, you know, you have a new student in the class and you have first big exam and you're like, did you just cheat off my paper? Because here's my picks. And by the way, I was used to it and I didn't mind it. I'm like, oh, hey, wait, it's the exact same thing. Actually, that's a compliment, Broussard. Means Broussard got 6 of the 7 correct. I have all the carbon copy the same reasons, with the only exception being Broussard's doesn't have a single, like, wow, that would really surprise me. Like, there is not a single sleeper or shocking team there. Well, New Orleans is, I think, right now in Vegas, favored to be one of the playoff teams. I think Atlanta, I'm down on New Orleans. I'm much higher on the Falcons. New coach. I know they lost Julio, but they added Kyle Pitts. But instead of arguing about who both of us have as essentially the 7th best team, let's talk about who we have coming out of the NFC, Broussard, and then Wilds will jump in. For me, even though I do not think Green Bay has any realistic shot of being the 1 seed, Green Bay's schedule, they got unlucky in that they draw the NFC West, who you mentioned, the toughest division in the NFL. They also draw the AFC North, maybe the 2nd best division in the NFL, and their extra bonus game, hey, go play the Chiefs. So I think they might end up being like 11-6. Like a team that has to win 3 playoff games to make the Super Bowl, only get 1 home playoff game potentially. But that's the path they had. In fact, it was as a wild card when they won their 1 Super Bowl with Rodgers. Right. I think this is the year they break through, Broussard. I think that even though I think they're going to have some struggles in the regular season, because aside from their divisional games, they do not have many layups. But I think that they are the team best equipped to win multiple playoff games in the NFC. They can beat them, multiple different ways. I love what they did the last couple of years. I think this is the year they break through. So I think the Packers are going to win the NFC.
I do think that's a good point, Nick, about them. If they don't have the greatest regular season record, that actually could help them. Because as you said, they won their 1 Super Bowl as a wild card. You know, maybe Rodgers doesn't really like being the hunted. All right, I mentioned earlier when they were 15-1 back in, I think it was 2011, that's when they lost in their first playoff game. So that was not a bad point. But I don't think they will get to the NFC title game. I mentioned last week, Aaron Rodgers is a different quarterback in the NFC championships games where the pressure is really on you. 9 touchdowns, 8 interceptions in his 5 NFC championship games. That is incredible for a guy that rarely throws interceptions in the regular season. But again, I don't think they'll get that far this year. There are a number of teams that could beat them in the NFC, and I think one of them will get them. I got Tampa Bay. I told you, they're going to be better. I mean, I don't know how in the world, Nick, unless Tom Brady falls off a cliff, which is a remote possibility at 44 years old. If Father Time grabs him by the neck, that will hold them back, obviously. But outside of that, which I don't think it'll happen, they are going to be better. Last year, they won the Super Bowl. Brady had no offseason with his teammates. Antonio Brown played half the season. O.J. Howard was hurt. I mean, everything was coming together. They were 7-9 the year before, so couldn't have believed too much in themselves early on. So, Gio Bernard, I know you poo-poo my love of Gio Bernard. And I'm just saying, the one thing Tom Brady didn't have last year was a back that could catch the ball out of the backfield. Fournette and Ronald Jones were great running, but they didn't have that receiver. Now you add that. Come on, I got Tampa Bay. Yeah, I don't even think it's a hard choice, Wilds.
So Wilds, here's what I'll say about Tampa real quick. I think they'll be the 1 seed because the NFC West teams are going to beat up on each other. The NFC East doesn't have a team good enough, and I just talked about Green Bay's schedule. But what they won't have this year, Wilds, is the amazing gift that is Taylor Heineke round 1, a melting Drew Brees round 2, no David Bakhtiari round 3, and no offensive line at all round 4. They won't get to round 4. Like they've scored 30 points in 8 straight games dating back to their bye. I understand everyone's super high on the Bucs, and I think they'll look good throughout the regular season. They are not going to have that type of just gold-plated road the way they ended up last year, Wilds.
I agree with you, but I want to bring up a team that I would say, at this point, I was going to say underrated, but I'm going to upgrade it or perhaps downgrade it to disrespectful. You both have this team in the wild card, but I think this team could win the NFC. That team is the Seattle Seahawks for the following reasons. Reason number 1, everyone's got a super short memory. The team was 12-4. Russ did throw for 40 touchdowns, the exact same number as Tom Brady for the 2nd most in the league. No one really cares anymore. It's like, we don't like him. Why? Everyone says, it's the defense. It's the defense. Well, that defense was late blooming. I know they played a bunch of sort of like not awesome offenses. Doesn't matter. 24 sacks in the last 7 games. It was tied for most in the league. They were the #1 scoring defense through the final 8 weeks. The defense got a lot better. Jamal Adams is going to be more comfortable. It's going to be great. Reason number 3, Russ cleared the air. The only thing worse than having a big fight is not having a big fight. Last year, the Seahawks passed at 60% of the plays. I think that number goes up. I think Russ becomes more dynamic. I think DK Metcalf becomes more dynamic. The whole offense looks better, and the defense looks better. It picks up where they left off. I think you guys are criminally underrating Russ and the Seattle Seahawks, Nick.
So here's the only problem. So there's 2 problems. One is the Dwayne Brown situation warrants monitoring. He's doing one of the weird, like, hold-ins, but they don't. Pete Carroll, when asked, like, do you expect him for week 1? He's like, yeah, I expect him to be out there. If that goes left, he's the most important member of their offensive line by a mile. But the other problem, Broussard, that I have with Seattle is they've been really good for a long time. It's been a long time, though, since they've been great. They have not won multiple playoff games since they last made the Super Bowl. They have not been to an NFC championship game since they last made the Super Bowl. And if you remember, that year was the year they were playing Rodgers and the Packers, and they were dead in the water, and they got the lucky onside kick, and then they end up coming all the way back and winning in overtime. Seattle has been a very good but not good enough team every year for the last 6. I don't think, Broussard, they've gotten better enough to take that next step. And I do think that all those NFC West teams, maybe it'll be good for them, but that is, you are not going to have a single easy divisional game all year long. That can wear on you by the end of the season.
No, absolutely. Even the team both of us did not pick to make the playoffs, Arizona, That's not going to be an easy game. So you're right about that.
Correct.
While I'll give you this, I would not be surprised if Seattle won that division. All right, if they're going to beat each other up. So, yeah, and to be honest, San Francisco's got a shot too. But Seattle definitely could win the division, but I'm not as high on you on the defense. All right, I think the defense could be better, but I don't know how much better. And then have they found a running game? Because I think they're going to need that. I don't think you can just let Russ throw it all over the yard for the entire season and then be at your optimum. So I think they'll be tough.